to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Silence my phone first. All right, so speakers should have a green button on them, so if you want to speak, since this is being recorded in a live stream, just go ahead and hit that button, and that'll make sure that everybody's heard in here as well as out there in the general public. I'd like to start by saying thank you, commissioners, for coming down here, for suggesting it at that previous meeting where Harrison Leishear was discussed, and Councilmember Munder had shown up and brought a letter from the town. I'd also like to say an early happy Thanksgiving to everyone. We only got a couple more days to go, so and then we'll be enjoying that. I wanted to start with some introductions around the room and make sure that we kind of knew who all the players were here. And so I'm just going to start by saying I'm the new mayor, Mayor Hushauer.
Good afternoon. I'm Stephen Demoter, council member.
I'm Council Member Carroll Munder. Thank you for coming.
Council Secretary Pamela Reed.
Councilmember Galletti, thank you again for coming down here.
Tom McCarron, Town Attorney.
David Warrington, the Town Administrator.
Roberta Wyndham, the County Administrator.
Dennis Frazier, Commissioner, District 3.
I'm Commissioner Rothstein, District 5, which is the Eldersburg, Sexville area.
Dick Weaver, County Commissioner, District 2, which is Hampstead, Finksburg, and Gamber.
And Carroll County Commissioner Steve Wance, and I got the whole rest of the county.
Everything else. Well, from the staff out there, we have Barney Quinn. He's our town engineer, along with Chaslin. And then we have Holly McCleary, who is our town clerk, and we have Melissa Thorne here as well. I think that covers everybody, all the players in the room. So just to make a point, let me start by saying the Harrison Leishear discussion started in earnest about April 5th of 2010. And by hand, who was sitting as an elected official or on staff April 5th of 2010? Tom, Melissa, who was 15 at the time. We have Barney out there, okay? And I think that's it. So, my point with that is that, inherently, we had gone through this process changing hands constantly. We have 2 council members that are brand new, as of May. Councilwoman Galletti and Councilmember Demoter. Councilmember Munder has been on long enough that he and I were both working this issue for the last few years. And Councilmember Reed's been following this for a couple of years. And Councilmember Poirier is our senior person, and I think he came in 2012, I believe was his election time. Tom McCarron's been here forever. He's still waiting for the Redskins to start winning, but
Oh, that's right.
yeah. Yeah, but and myself, I took this seat 2 weeks ago, and that's my name tag up there. That's how new I am, and I got this one this morning. So there's nothing like coming in as mayor, and your first major function is to show up at a meeting that could have an impact on this town for decades, okay, if not forever. So it's a serious moment. I've been able to follow it even after May when I had left office. I kind of followed along. I spoke at the meetings when it came up and tried to stay in tune with what was going on, as well as council president when when the IDA kind of folded up shop and said, we're done with this, you know, I came to y'all, and I appreciate you letting me speak at that meeting, where I said, wait a minute, you know, we're right there. And the rug got pulled out from under us. So what is in front of you is a timeline, and I'm just going to brief the highlights that are in this timeline and kind of give you a brief history of how we got here. We were in a water deficit back around 2010, just prior to that, where we had overdeveloped, and the MDE came in and basically said, you're drawing too much water and you don't have enough recharge area. And that put us in a hole on development. And because of that, it kind of became an opportunity where the county had just acquired the Harrison Leishear property. By the way, there's a map up here showing our future annexation areas, and the area labeled B is the Harrison Leishear area, 250 acres up there. So that's where we were. We had a problem with water, and we had to find water, and that led us into discussions with the county that enabled us to start down this pathway of bringing Harrison Leishear in. And the county transferred the deeds over to the IDA, Industrial Development Authority, and we started working with them on a plan to develop that property. We were able to satisfy the consent agreement through wells a new well that we drilled south of town. And so that part of it, we were able to get ourselves out of the hole. And perhaps that's a reason why some of this stuff started taking a little bit longer, because we weren't as I wouldn't say concerned, we weren't as, what's the word? Desperate. There you go. Desperation. Weren't as desperate. There we go.
Did the town ever buy the Zeltman property right outside of town? At
No,
one time they were looking at
Zeltman is still Frederick County. Yeah. So if you look through the timeline, I'll just, on page 1, when you get down to August 8th of '08, reason to point that one out is because we actually paid that $20,000. So that doesn't seem like a huge amount in the big scheme of things, but it's the first. And that's when we started actually putting skin in the game to get things done out there. And then on page 2, if you go down to April 5th of 2010, you got the county manager address the town council, and the county had acquired the Harrison Leishear property. So we're in the 2010 timeframe. Shortly after that, we were able to get the consent order met. And then on the 3rd of June 2010, the Carroll County Commissioner sent a letter to the town acknowledging both are active in discussions of the redevelopment of the Harrison Leishear property. Page 3, and I always, at least in the 4 years I was on the council, I know, and the years I worked on the Trails program here, once you get the attorneys talking, you're actually doing something. And so on December 16th of 2010, council, Tom, met with the IDA, introduced himself, and the ball was rolling. You see several more meetings coming through there, as well as seeing down on May 9th of 2013, there's a cost of $104,868. We actually would have had to have spent some of that money anyway, but we started spending money in anticipation of Harrison Leishear at that point. So, you know, what shows $104,868, some of that would have been spent, but we actually went over and above to make sure that we were going to be able to bring Harrison Leishear in. Then further down, there's that cost of $75,492. That was for the corridor study. And again, that was done in anticipation of Harrison Leishear. We jump to the next page up on top, June 28th of 2016. again, in anticipation of Harrison Leishear coming in. And then there were some minor costs that are down below that we actually did pay out of pocket for well testing, water quality, generator rental, and the operation of those generators. So that's money that we were putting into this. Again, skin in the game. You'll see December 2nd of 2019 toward the bottom of that page. That's where the council provided a presentation update on Harrison Leishear, and that was conducted by Councilmember Munder, and it kind of got us moving on the fast track again. It just took everything, reined it in, and we had a presentation at the council meeting, and things started moving quicker at that point. You can see that we had the resolution, the annexation resolution was introduced, and then what you can see is on the Planning Commission meeting, August 31 of 2020, there were 20 speakers that showed up to that meeting, and out of those 20 speakers, 18 were county residents. They were not in-town residents. In town, we were doing fine. There was good support. Nobody was kicking and screaming. We all knew that this was something that we had to move forward on. At one point, I talked to Commissioner Boucher, and we were in agreement. This land will not stay a cornfield. This land is going to be developed. We knew that was coming, and on the council side, we thought it was a good plan. But we certainly were asking the questions, but most of the questions we asked were based on county residents' inputs. So just to kind of point that out.
The speakers, the 2 and 18, what was the, gist of their?
Yeah, I can bring it out. I might be able to get through all the points on my own without Carl's help. But they were concerned about the entry off of the Jack's Court area, Leishear Road. They were concerned about that single entry. Their biggest concern of the county residents, which are our friends, your constituents, the biggest concern to them is their wells. There's actually one property over there that has a 40-foot well, and it's producing water for them. Their big concern is that if the county, if the town, if we start drawing too much water out of those wells, it'll run their wells dry. That's their biggest concern. So we advocated with the IDA that something needed to be facilitated to protect the county residents. Again, our friends and your constituents. We felt like there should have been some manner that said, within 5 years, if your well runs dry and if we're drawing this much water, then maybe a stipend, maybe whatever it is to alleviate their problem, to dig a new well or something like that. Buffer zones was a third issue. They were very concerned about all this development occurring on the backs of their property. So we got entry wells, buffers. Carl? That's about it. We had talked about a land swap where the conservation became the growth area, and but the IDA wasn't hot on that, and it didn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I don't think it's feasible either
Yeah.
to do that. I mean, that's the gist of that one. But were most of the county community, were they from the one area?
Yes.
One, Butler Road?
Yeah, Butler Road and Jack's Court.
Okay.
Those are the two closest properties, and of course, they're the most concerned residents. And these are people that, we see at the kids' soccer games, we see them at the Historical Society. We are the town of Mount Airy, but there is a 21771. So, we're going to serve in the best interest of the town.
Absolutely.
I'm just going to tell you, they're out there. It doesn't matter what happens with Harrison Leishear. There's county residents that are concerned. I'll just leave it at that.
Yep.
Okay. October 26th of 2020, this is the page 5. It was a 4-2 vote by the Planning Commission to make a recommendation, a positive recommendation to planning. And then we get to January 4th of 2021, where the town council unanimously approved the annexation plan for the Harrison Leishear property. At that point, we were down to two things that needed to occur. We needed to have a public hearing, and we needed to vote on the annexation plan. And that's how close we were with the IDA. I mean, we were right there. Tom, true statement?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. So that's how close we were to having this thing done. So needless to say, when the IDA walked away, we weren't happy.
I like, Mayor, I liked your analogy of being the bride left at the altar.
There you go. That's kind of how we felt about this deal. You know, now, when I was talking about skin in the game, of course, I mentioned a lot of dollar figures, but for 10 years, we've been paying attorney fees for this to occur. We've been paying our staff to go out there and get the job done. And so we have a ton of skin in the game on this deal with the IDA up to this point. And that's kind of how we got here, okay? So that's kind of the timeline of it. And I gave you all a cheat sheet to kind of follow along with my comments in case you wanted to make notes or anything. And I would just close out the timeline conversation by saying we were shovel ready. I mean, we were rolling and ready to go on this deal. Next thing I'll talk about is the time and money. And like I said, you know, we put a lot of skin in the game, but there's something that we were not told. We were never told about this 10-year, I'll call it an escape clause, that at the end of 10 years that the IDA could actually walk away from the deal and turn the deeds back over to the county. Again, Tom, true?
Yeah, that is true. That
Yeah.
there was this reversion back to the county after 10 years, and that the county commissioners could require that the property be transferred back to the county.
And that was not put in any paperwork or not known by anybody?
Not by us. We found out about it probably maybe a month before, maybe a couple weeks before we were told that IDA was, you know, formally withdrawing.
Yeah, so that, you know, we're back at the altar here.
It's like getting served your divorce papers.
So it was, so we felt like that was the, that had us all raising eyebrows and going, where did that come from? So, so that was disconcerting to us. Okay. Next part of this is the zoning, a bit of a zoning conversation. So what I wanted to point out in this is that, you know, our master plan that was created in 2013 was very heavily dependent on Harrison Leishear coming into the town. And you can see that's our 2013 master plan map of future potential annexation areas, and B, once again, is the 250 acres of Harrison Leishear. So the reason why Harrison Leishear is so significant to us, just going to make sure I don't get ahead of my notes, is that we needed that open space. We needed the 85 acres. That's our recharge area. That's our parkland. That's what we needed in the APFO in order to keep developing within the town. We also, you know in this town that if you don't grow some, and to some people growth is written with 4 letters, but we know that if we don't grow, then we're going to have to raise taxes. You know, we're going to have to find another way. We also know that Harrison Leishear was serving as a buffer to the north for this town. In other words, we knew that as a office park and employment campus, something along those lines, going northward off of Watersville Road, that we would be protected from anything that was more along the lines of what one of the RFPs came back as. This dense growth going northward, that if it's done in the county, would just be able to continue northward. We're very concerned about that. So it was in our 2013 master plan for numerous reasons. The other thing that came within the Industrial Development Authority was a water sharing agreement. We have a lot of infill areas in town that we're trying to grow and develop. And unfortunately, we feel like we could run into a water situation again. The water sharing agreement that came with the IDA gave us a buffer that would allow us to put that water where it was needed to be in order to continue growth. So if a developer came to us with a good plan that we liked, in particular along our Center Street corridor, and if they didn't have the water for it, then we had something. We had a bargaining chip. We had a commodity that could be used to allow development to occur responsibly. And once that went away, obviously this is a huge hit to our 2013 master plan. So that's the reason we thought it was so important in 2013. But as well, the county's comprehensive plan, and Roberta, if I say anything incorrect, by all means point it out. The map shows that area coming annexed into Mount Airy, and then north of it, I think there's some proposed EC areas, like parcel 20, possibly.
They were proposed, but they didn't change.
Okay,
Zoning
all right.
didn't change.
Yeah, but certainly the comprehensive plan shows Harrison Leishear coming into the town. Okay, and in fact, we developed that zoning of OP&E, of course, for the entire town, but what put a spur under the saddle was or a burr under the saddle was the fact that we knew Harrison Leishear was coming along. So OP&E, Office Park and Employment, was developed knowing that was coming along. So that's kind of the zoning issue of it. And now we'll move down to the impacts to our town. Our biggest concern, based on the RFPs that were delivered and the concept that this could potentially be developed in the county as opposed to developed in the town, of course, number one, we start thinking about the police and the fire department. If that's developed in the county and somebody hits 911 in the county with a fire, then our fire department's going to go. Unless there's some other plan. Right now, we haven't seen any other plan. So our assumption is that, the Mount Airy Volunteer Fire Company is going to be responding to whatever growth occurs up there. Our police department, the way our APFO is set up is we're 1.1 per every 1,000 people in our town. And right now, our population's just under 10,000, and we have 11 officers. So we're right there where we need to be. Our concern is that if development occurs up here, then if a robbery is in progress, then it's again going to be our officers who are trying to respond to that because they're going to be the quickest ones to get out there. So we're very concerned about our police department being utilized on a county development. So we're not real thrilled about that possibility. I've already talked about the parkland/open space, and and again, we were dependent on that, and of course, we're always concerned about the roads as well. But in the big picture of things, if you had a crystal ball and you started looking at things happening along this manner, what we approved on our town council a couple of months ago was basically a green light to move down a downtown vision plan, which has been in works for a long time. And basically it takes our Center Street corridor and runs it all the way out to Highway 27 with a mixed-use style development. And it looks great on paper, and we like it, and we're all in agreement that that is something that we want to occur. But the concern now is that if we go from Main Street to 27 with mixed use, and then something happens on Harrison Leishear that resembles mixed use in the county, and the only thing between that property and our Center Street corridor is Nils Farm, which we have scheduled out to be conservation, but we know that eventually a developer will show up and say, well, I don't know about that. We could, in effect, in a crystal ball, be moving our Main Street out to Highway 27. And all of a sudden, Main Street and our shops and businesses in downtown are not getting the traffic. The only traffic that's coming down our Main Street right outside the front door here is when somebody has a wreck out on 27, they're going to end up using our Main Street as a bypass to get around that traffic. And to some extent, that kind of happens right now. And that's just something that we're very concerned about. So that's the impacts to our town that are most concerning to us, is that, you know, if this is developed in the county, we still get all the impacts of the people. Like I said, we are a town, but we're 21771. So when, if that gets developed, they're still using our Walmart, our Target, our parks, everything. And it's just, you know, we're very concerned about the fact that essentially you're growing our town by a huge number of people, and we're not getting anything for the impacts of those people in terms of being able to provide the police, the fire, the parkland, everything that needs to be provided for that growth. I would say this, and this is our next point. So if this property were annexed into the town, we do have some carrots that would make it attractive and make it something that would, that I think all of us feel would be a little more responsible in terms of growth. And I'd start by reminding you that, you know, where we were with the IDA. You know, had we gone 2 more months and had the IDA have been accepted with the OP&E, then I suspect you all would have been extremely happy. The ball would be rolling and everything would be occurring. We'd be happy. And we just needed the 2 more months. But having said that, since they did walk away, the biggest thing that we have in our town, because we have fronted money to look at that property, is we have sewer. We have the ability to flush toilets on that property and grow. And we had that all set up with the IDA. We have our plans in place for water distribution and for sewer. So that's kind of like something that is, you know, that is that's already established within the town. We were anticipating that. We'd have to run new numbers on what the, you know, the cost benefit would be, at what point we would be able to start, you know, recouping the funding or the money. And, but, you know, but for right now, just know that we have sewer. And the good thing about that, of course, is that if this were developed outside of the county, you know, I'm not a developer, but I would tell you there's long poles in the tent in terms of getting any sort of a sewer treatment plant out on that property. I've been told it can be done. The question is, how long would it take for that to occur?
So, just real quick,
Yeah.
why would we not want to annex this at this time? I mean, why would we not want to move forward and annex this property?
Yeah, I may.
Because I just, everything you've been sharing, you're going to get agreeance.
Okay.
from us, and this is an opportunity for us to really listen to you, but I'm at a point where I'm like, we want to go down this road because we're talking one community. Personally, I don't like the word constituent, doesn't make sense. It's a community. And what's best for this community, for Mount Airy and Carroll County? And if it means annexing a piece of property to better suit the community at large, why not go down that road?
Okay, let's fast forward then.
I mean, I apologize.
One other
Dennis,
question. You keep saying you're offering sewer, but you're offering water and sewer
Yeah,
on that property, right?
well, the water is on the property. The infrastructure to provide that water is not developed.
All right, so a well would have to be developed on the property, but the,
Well, the wells are developed.
so what is, okay.
The piping that allows it to feed into our system, go to our water towers and provide our hydrants and everything else.
Okay.
So,
There's proven water capacity on the property. It just hasn't been put into the infrastructure stages yet.
okay.
I want to state, you made a very good point about the sewer system, because that's a very good environmental point, that property is sitting over a very important aquifer. And that if that land gets developed with septic systems, we all know that long-term septic systems will have a negative impact on our water quality. I also have emphasized the importance of this region taking control of the planning of that property for this reason. I don't think there's anyone on our planning and zoning commission at the county level that resides in this section of the county. So if this property in question doesn't get annexed in to the town of Mount Airy, that means the decisions in the planning and zoning on that property will be done by people who do not represent this area. And I think it's extremely important for the citizens within this greater Mount Airy metropolitan area to have as much say and influence upon the eventual zoning and plan of this property over anyone else in this county. And the only way you can truly achieve that is if it is annexed in as placed under your planning and zoning, so that your citizens weigh heavy on it.
Thank you, and I'm in agreement, of course. So here's kind of the direction that we would love to see this go. First of all, I'm going to throw out the unicorn, and then I'll back it down some. The unicorn is that you take the deeds and you return to the IDA and say, you were within 2 months, finish this. Let it go to a vote.
If I can, what was the plan with the IDA? What was going to be developed?
It was going to be developed as an office park and employment campus, similar to light industrial, I guess you would compare it to. And it was, and then there were 85 acres of the property. There was a process, kind of a staggered approach to developing the land, and it was going to come into the town in that manner. Okay.
But where did things fall apart in this whole thing?
You know, I think, and honestly, well, first of all, it's inherent in the timeline that, you know, we were waiting on the MDE to give us answers back, and then we had attorney issues. Not that we were dragging our feet, but, you know, the paperwork process to develop the agreements and then to present them. And then, again, you introduce the first month, and the second month you pass, and you have the public hearings and everything. So, you know, did it take too long? Maybe. You know, but you know, once Councilmember Munder came on and realized, you know, because of the because we were only able to operate as 2 council members in a meeting to prevent having a quorum for Open Meetings Acts. You know, I think, Jason, were you ever on the Harrison Leishear?
Prior to Councilmember Munder coming on, myself and former Council President Peter Helt were meeting with IDA as well.
Yeah, so it's, you know, basically every time we shifted council members, it became a new drill. To your point, where it all started falling apart was really at the end when we had some public hearings. We had And we asked some questions based on the input and the 3 items I was talking about as far as buffers, wells, and entry points. And I think the IDA really wanted a full-throated endorsement of the entire development. And we felt like as council members, before a public hearing, it would be inappropriate to go out there with a full-throated endorsement of something that you haven't voted on. So, you know, while we were able to provide the assurances and they knew that the pathway it was going on, I think they just finally got to a point where they weren't totally comfortable with the level of support that they were getting from the town. And I think that's probably where it started breaking down. But, you know, and I would tell them whenever we did have that one meeting, I think Commissioner Boucher was at that meeting, you know, where we were like, we're heading in the right direction, but we got to ask the questions, you know, and we can't commit until we hear from the public. So anyway, so here's kind of the way we would love for this to go. Like I said, the unicorn is throwing the deeds back to the IDA and telling them to finish. I mean, it's shovel ready. We're within 2 months. You know, probably take 3 months for everything to get spooled up, and then we'd be on our way.
Bust your bubbles, but unicorns don't exist.
All right, so let's go to the unicorn.
My granddaughter would argue that.
That was what I was gonna say. Depends on your age.
So, Commissioner Wentz, you had mentioned at that previous meeting, I think it was the September meeting, you know, why hasn't this been annexed? And realize we on the town did not go out and seek the annexations. The annexations are requested, and the commissioners are holding the deeds right now. So we would ask that you come to us and request annexation under OP&E, under our office, park, and employment campus zoning. We set it up with our town attorney and annex the property in as a cornfield and a soybean field. Now, get it under the town's control, and then redo the request for proposals, since the unicorn's not out there, and have developers come in and look at developing that property under office, park, and employment zone.
You have the resources to that, because the IDA, I mean, you're asking if the IDA would take this back. That would be the best. So,
Yeah,
but
yeah, that's our,
But they pushed it back. They said
Yes.
10 years. we're done.
understood.
So now, what you're asking is annex it into the town, and then the town would take control and put out the RFPs and request bids coming back in.
Okay, before I commit to anything,
Because that's a.
do we have the resources to submit RFPs on that property, or is that something? Tom?
Well, if the county's going to continue to own the property, albeit within the town and zoned within the town, then the county has the prerogative to put out the RFPs. But if some other arrangement, you know, is what's desired, I'm sure. You know,
What about compensation on this?
But just a quick question. If we ask you to annex the property into your town, and you annex it in, we still own the property at that point.
Okay. Okay. Commissioner Weaver,
Compensation, how does that enter in?
are we talking about financial compensation? Well, you still own the property, so, you know, you end up selling the property to a developer. Tell me if I start speaking out of turn. You would sell the property to developers, and your money would come in?
You're not interested in owning the property?
No, well, other than the 85 acres of open space.
Which is already, so we got to back out of this for a second. So annexed into the town, the RFP is already in place, we got 2 bids. It's still our responsibility to accept one or the other, or push it back out
I'd ask
for the
them.
world to, so regardless of what the town wants, it is still our responsibility. Now, the intent is to do what the town wants in partnership to get the right, solution. But the bidding process is on the county's responsibility, correct?
On the
Even though it's
property
annexed in,
owner.
okay.
The property
The
owners,
yeah,
which is us at the moment.
okay.
Okay?
I mean, because and then it goes back to why we're doing this, and that is, what do you want at the end of the day, this property to look like? Now, the open space is one piece of it. To be able to flip-flop it to another area doesn't really make realistic sense, because it's really non-buildable area would be open space. So, with that said, what does the town want for us to then take a look at, and take a hard look at in moving forward?
Larry, can I ask a question real quick?
Yeah.
I just wanna
Just so
make sure
that
I'm
I
not
have
confused.
clarification, I think the two RFPs that you all currently have do not fit our OPE zoning. So I think what Larry is asking is that you go out for new RFPs which are suitable to our OPE.
Right, but
That's true, thanks.
that's only after, in my opinion, after you would annex it into your
Yes.
town. That's when we would take those steps if that was to happen. Now, my opinion, we wouldn't do that beforehand.
Right.
Because then,
True.
because you're giving us the carrots of the infrastructure for the water and the sewer, so we could, annex it in, it could be developed that way.
In my opinion, the OPE, when this was coming back and forth, I kind of compared the OPE and your EC. They're similar to some areas, very similar in what you have, what allowed uses are. Our OPE would not allow a residential component, which your EC does, and other slight differences, I believe, right? So I would say similar to the industrial or commercial aspect of it, there are some matches between our OPE and your EC, but it's just more, we were hoping the OPE would be a higher end type of employment center.
So neither one of the bids that came in currently meet the town's zoning within OPE?
No.
No.
They do not.
Okay.
They do not.
Is that because you just don't have residential in that zoning?
Well,
Because if both of those bids had some type of residential in them.
yeah, both, one of your bids was total residential, and then the other one was mixed use.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah, so, yeah, neither one of those would fit into
residential
OP&E.
component.
The good news about going down this road is that, tax revenue is still going to come in, but on our end, that tax revenue is going to come in and enable us to meet the impacts, to make sure that our fire company is supplied, to make sure our police department grows accordingly, and of course, like I said, we're hot on that 85 acres, because we need it. So that's kind of,
Another quick question for you.
Yeah.
Your OPE, you said you developed it for this property, basically.
well,
I mean,
basically, we have it in a couple other places, so.
oh, you already have it somewhere else. That's what my next question.
We have it
Okay.
available.
So, just a question, could you change that to include residential?
I don't think we would want to.
Okay, I'm just asking,
Yeah.
just
Okay.
throwing it out there.
Yeah, I think our OP&E was designed really well around the potential of the IDA coming on board.
Right, I'm just throwing it out there because if you, I'm not.
Now, what I would tell you is, again,
Residential or something of that sort, but that's up to you. I'm just asking.
we have a lot of dominoes falling in our town, and one of them is that Center Street corridor, which will be developed as mixed use and will have a significant residential component to it. So we're already planning on growing our population significantly along that Center Street corridor.
How significant?
About
Bonnie, are we talking
2,000 people, or
Yeah, about 400 houses.
with
True.
about 2,000 people, maybe.
Just,
About 20%.
now, how flexible is the town to work with the county on this, is what I'm asking, I guess.
Well, I mean, we're certainly, well, and are you saying all the way through completion?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. I think we're motivated and willing to go down that road, and OPE is is already established. So as long as the, whatever comes in the RFPs is, is compatible to that OP&E, then, our planning commission is going to look at it and say, yep, they met that.
But if it only comes in 70% compatible, are you willing to work with us?
On that, I can't say. I don't think I.
That would be hard
I don't
to
think
say.
any of us can
Say,
speak
yeah.
that until we saw it.
It kind of really depends on what the RFPs come back as and what that 70% compatibility is, and what's that 30% isn't.
Right.
That's why I was getting
Right.
at it when I was questioning about changing OP to a little bit of residential in there before the RFPs went out.
Yeah.
That way you get what you want.
I
But,
would-
I mean, if you're not, that's why I threw it out there, but if that's not what you want, that's not what you
Yeah.
want, that's fine.
I would go back to, the statement that for 10 years, we worked with the IDA to get to a point where OP&E was coming in that way, and it was acceptable to everyone. So that's kind of, if it's not the IDA doing it, if it's, another developer doing it, we still want the same product in the end.
Understood.
Okay. No, I mean, it sounds like we're going in the same direction,
Yes.
overall.
No, I don't want to say it sounds like we're this close because we've been there.
Doesn't it? It
But,
feels
but
like
it does,
we're
but
there.
it feels like
Right.
Yeah.
we're there.
Right.
And, you've heard me say it already, Larry, you've mentioned it. Who knows best what to do here than you folks?
Yeah.
That's what means the most to me.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were that close
Yeah.
with your OPE, and then I'm having a difficult time here trying to figure out why this would not be satisfactory for both parties.
Yeah.
So, that's where I am.
Yeah.
I'm all about making sure that the folks that are most directly involved, wherever it is, have the most to contribute to what should happen.
Yeah.
That's how I've always tried to look at these,
Yeah.
in whatever location, so.
Absolutely agree. I mean, sometimes, and Roberta and I were talking about this earlier, sometimes we want to look at just the facts, but you got to look at the facts along judgment, including extenuating circumstances, all the things that are out there to make the community what you want the community to be. And like, Steve said, nobody knows that better than you. So, yeah, honestly, I was walking in thinking one thing, and I'm walking away thinking a completely, different action. And if that's where we're going, I think that's a good thing. Why would we not want to annex this in? Why would we not want to work with you and, getting this RFP back out on the street, getting bids in, and moving forward?
Okay.
So, I mean,
So to your point, real quick, another question, you were talking about increasing about 20% your Main Street corridor, if you will, which I think is fantastic. I've had the pleasure of marching down Main Street, many years here.
In a green suit.
Yeah. But I assume, and most of you know my background, I'm all about public safety here, so I would assume that you've already taken into account what you have been speaking about, Larry, when it comes to your ratio of police officers versus citizens, and the impact that it's going to have on fire and EMS as well.
Yeah.
Because you're in a unique area here where you've got, the Frederick, Montgomery, Howard, Carroll thing happening here, which everybody always goes, what? But that's critically important, and I hope that you've already taken that into consideration.
We do know that, increasing that Center Street corridor is going to trigger at least one more police officer. And so next January, we actually stood up our police department, was it 4 years ago? I think it's 4 years standing. And it's expensive, as you would guess. And we're trying to find creative ways, and that's our big concern up here, is that police department costs a lot of money, and we need to generate some revenue so we can fund it.
Yeah, and I say this as it isn't, I ask it in reference to the fact that even the OPE, you know, you're gonna have some impact there as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
If there's not residential component to that, you're still, you know, you're potentially bringing a lot of people in at certain hours of the day, which is impactful regardless of whether they're here or not for, you know, live, work, and play.
Yeah.
And just the work aspect.
If we,
So,
the zoning, those 18 and 2 that were at that one public hearing,
Yes.
are they gonna still have the exact same issues that,
I think they will always have that concern about their wells. The wells is the biggest thing, and and I know they're out there watching this meeting
but I
right
mean,
now.
in addition, go ahead, I apologize.
I think it would serve a lot of good if the county would come up with a plan to, and I see, I see the way you're looking. But I'll say we need to have a plan to accommodate them if their wells go dry, if they have problems with water supply.
Yeah.
We need to have a plan.
Well,
Most,
yes.
May I?
Go ahead.
Okay. Most of the wells on that Butler Road, right, that adjoin the property, oh, good Lord, probably from the 40s, 50s, maybe even 60s. So there are a lot of shallow wells. So they were primarily concerned with them running dry, or surface contamination runoff into the wells, which is understandable. I mean, I'm sure that if you were developing somewhere up around the Westminster Air Park or something, you would have the same people if there was a lot of older homes there. Everybody's concerned with their water. So saying that, but most of the well studies that we have done in the past have indicated that the supply should not be impacted on those wells, but it's probably the surface contamination and runoff, because even we know now, even in Howard County, they're having issues with saltwater contamination from the road salting operations. So I'm sure that Carroll County probably has some of that too. They just haven't been tested yet. So it's contamination and
Yeah.
mainly.
I mean, I definitely appreciate using the word "we" as we move forward.
Yeah.
On this. And the issues with Butler Road, that was one, but the other is the congestion, you know, and, you know, their concern of what's going to be developed there. The opinions that we were hearing from those folks didn't like really either one of those bids that were coming in. Something will come in. I mean,
Yeah.
so development will occur in, you know, that parcel B, up there in the Harrison Leishear property. What will appeal to the folks in Butler Road that, you know, again, we will work to come up with the best solution, because it seemed to be very contentious as we're moving forward, so.
Yeah, I understand the concern, and there's concerns as well within the town. But, you know, this is a point where, and we've been being told this for years now, it will not stay a cornfield. The land will be developed, and the question is, you know, how best to do it. You know, like I said, I came here 2 weeks ago. I'm going to do what's best for the town for the next 3.5
Absolutely.
years, and I think all of us sit at the table in agreement. And certainly, before I close out my comments, I would welcome to go down the row, or however you want to operate it, Jason, as our council president, and make sure that if anyone else has a comment, by all means, chime in,
Do you want to do that now?
unless you had anything else.
I just think we'll take your lead.
Okay.
And that's why we're here.
Go ahead, Jason.
And so I'll just add on, thank you, commissioners, for your time today and your cooperation, and having that we agreement, I think, will make us feel a little bit more comfortable, as well as the residents and the citizens, not only in this town, but also in the county. And I just wanted to highlight just 2 points really quickly. And it was sort of brought to your all's attention, this 10-year agreement that maybe it looked like, at least from the five of you in your faces, that you were not aware when our lawyer confirmed that we were not aware of what sort of happened. And so allowing us an opportunity to finish the deal and see where we can go is something that we just felt like we deserve. And the second, which is going to take a lot of is Route 27. It doesn't matter what's developed on that property. The traffic situation on Route 27, the congestion, we know that we see a lot of it now from residents that are going to Westminster, that are traveling north. That traffic is not Mount Airy traffic. That traffic is everywhere north of Mount Airy. And we see that, and we understand that we're located next to a highway. We get that. And we try to take advantage with that with our businesses and trying to make Mount Airy as attractive as possible. But having whatever goes on Harrison Leishear, we need to start taking a heavy look at how can we make 27 more accessible and less detrimental to the residents that do travel there, as well as the residents that are using it as a corridor and access way to Highway 70. So that will take a big having the lieutenant governor here several months ago and speaking to him about it and having at least a crack in the door for Highway 27. But it will certainly take it'll take both groups, us as well as the commissioner. So we appreciate your time today and listening to our concerns and appreciate that. And so I'll start with Councilmember Demoter.
Just want to share, though, the relationship we have with Department of Transportation, with Secretary Slater, along with State Highway Administrator Seuss, who is the district engineer for this area, I believe is second to none. And it's because of the relationships that Commissioner Wance has as being on the board of Maryland Association of Counties, because we attend these forums with the Association of Counties, we're right in their face, and we talk through what our priorities are. And 27 is absolutely, becoming more and more in the forefront of priorities. But that's how we do it. It's going to these events and having that face-to-face, here are the issues. And, I inherited a lot of this, but the three of them been doing it for 4 years prior to me at these events. And fortunately, we have a friend in court with Secretary Slater and the others, so.
You've got to pick that fruit when it's ripe. And Secretary Slater's a good old Carroll County, born and raised guy, and his mom and dad still live in the area. So, all of us, but particularly me, have reminded him of that on several occasions as we look at the network of state routes through our county. And it's on the radar, and they know it, but as you know, it's all about the funding. But I'm a little bit excited now with the fact that it appears that like infrastructure is kind of getting to the top of that, because apparently they're making money in the basement of the White House or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, wherever, but that certainly is a priority, and we've all heard that. So,
And we have no problem providing a local voice. So when you are having those meetings or, at your commission meetings, we have no problem providing a local outcry to say, it's not just at the county level. It's sort of like, okay, well, let's take a look at, where are some areas hurting, but the municipalities aren't saying anything. And we have really no problem showing up. We've done our studies. We have our data to show that 27 is an issue.
It goes a long ways.
It does, and I can tell you, just this past weekend, I was in meetings with MACO, and the leadership of MML was there with us. So Mayor Day and Scott were both there, and I will assure you that when we got finished with that meeting, there was more of a sense of working together on many of the issues, including highway user revenue, even though MML, was successful in getting about 90% of that back to the municipalities, and the counties are only at about 40. But MML, and Mayor Day was instrumental in saying this, we're gonna work together and go to the quaint little village of Annapolis as one voice. And I think that's gonna go a long way to your point as well. So I was excited to hear that. So on a number of issues, we're gonna be coming together, MECO and MML, and get that common, so they can hear that common voice. Because often, you're right, they'll say, well, the legislators, well, we didn't hear that from the municipalities. So is it that important? So that has a lot of weight, and we hear
And
that.
just to finish this thought is, because Steve shared it, the legislation. We have a very strong relationship with our legislators. We do have a lot of legislators representing different areas within the county, but ensuring that they understand our priorities. Sometimes it's inconvenient to go to places. Sometimes you gotta try to fit it in, but the value in going to them monumentally outweighs any inconvenience that, there may be. And so continue to share with us the priorities, and we will carry that water best we can, so.
Just one question with this. About 3 years ago, we started the Gillis Falls intersection. We went to them, and everybody was really receptive. The key was we put some money into the planning of that. I think about 300,000, if I remember right.
Yeah, it was
Small amount to a $3 million project. That seemed to be all the projects we get into. If somebody's willing to put some money in to help them with the planning, they will take it and go further. If on 27, we start looking with this, would the town be willing to put some in with the county to move ahead on that?
That's
That would be some
definitely
of the
a
questions.
thought and consideration, moving forward, but sort
Something
of
to think
looking
about.
at, yeah, absolutely. We can keep it in our back pocket, but looking at the legislators and having that municipality voice, I think will also provide some stronghold as well.
I mean, if you look at Route 32, Howard County put a chunk of change in, and all of a sudden it started down there coming up to our area. But the fact is, they get some input from us, they start moving ahead better.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be a lot of money, but some that at least we're willing to contribute something. It seems to move things along faster.
Thank you. So we'll move to Councilmember Demoter.
Sure. Well, again, good afternoon. Thank you so much for meeting with us. My brief thoughts would be, I echo all the comments that have been made amongst all of us today. I think the word I would use is partnerships. I mean, it sounds very much like you want to work with us, and we need to work with you. And so, to me, it's all about partnerships moving forward. Appreciate your comments about wanting to do what's in the best interest of the citizens of Mount Airy. I mean, your comments about, well, who knows better on what to do with Mount Airy than the people in Mount Airy? So that resonates strongly with me. I'm most interested in, on that theme, what is in the best interest of the citizens of Mount Airy, and also safety. I'm a safety professional as well. So everything I've heard, to me, is very positive. It sounds like we have some alignment, and I'm looking forward to working with you, moving ahead on Harrison Leishear with the partnership theme. So, thank you.
Councilman Munder.
Thank you. Nope, I will pretty much just keep it short and agree with what has all been said, and thank you for coming down, and I enjoy looking forward to the partnership, working with the county commissioners on getting Harrison Leishear annexed into the town at the end of this, so we can move forward and get what's best for the town of Mount Airy and the surrounding area. Thank you again for coming down.
Councilwoman Reed.
I'll just thank you all for coming down here today. It made our lives easier because we didn't have to go up there. And again, thank you for being willing to No, it was never a possibility.
Did not want to deal with Route 27 going north, okay?
So same, I get that it's probably the same feeling across the board. But I am just really appreciative that you were willing to reengage this conversation with us, after the IDA pulled out. So thank you.
Councilwoman Galetti.
I'll reiterate what everyone said. Thank you again, as I said in the beginning, for coming. I do want to point out, besides thanking you for coming here today and listening, as you always do to town residents and county residents, I do want to piggyback on a meeting that our town administrator and I attended with you guys on the 21st of October and say thank you so much. It was with the Secretary of Transportation, the DOT, Secretary Slater. I started this back in a couple meetings through MML with them online and then kind of pulled him in. So I do have to say thank you because I couldn't say it in the meeting because I was only able to observe. But thank you for bringing up and putting on their radar the 27 corridor study that's how many years old. So Secretary Boucher, thank you for bringing that up. And like you said, it might seem inconvenient at the time, but it's an important thing to do to, attend those meetings and listen to you guys and hear everything in the big picture. So thank you for getting us on that radar and bringing it up that day, and for all of your work for everybody here in Carroll County and the town, and especially 27, because I'm a big person on streets and roads and the issues we have continuously with people passing through 27, and as I know from our chief, a lot of people speeding on 27 that do live here in town. So thank you for getting that in and trying to get us timely information, studies, and money to try to alleviate some of the horrible problems we have on 27 with safety. So thank you.
Well, you're welcome. It was a combination of things. One, I received a letter from someone on this board, maybe the acting mayor at the time, soliciting. And also, a big kudos goes out to Commissioner Wance, because the night before, Commissioner Wance was driving down here. I believe you were coming down here to Mount Airy.
Yeah, I was.
And he was stuck in traffic on rush hour, and it put a burr in his saddle, and I heard. And I'm more than happy to respond to that, because I know that if it was bothering Commissioner Wance, it's bothering all my constituents as well. Also, on a funny note, I want to state, we in French is yes. So I keep hearing yes, 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 yes. That's a positive. I want to congratulate Mayor Hushhour for his victory. Thank you very much for running. I also want to give a special thanks to Councilwoman Reed for running a very admirable campaign. You kept the mayor honest, and that's a good thing. Also want to give a special thanks to my colleagues for being here today and emphasizing the fact that it is your autonomy and your location that means the most, not only within the municipality, but Commissioner Rothstein mentioned the Boatler residents, and it's so important for us not to forget those citizens out there on Boatler Road, because even if this property gets annexed in, those citizens are still outside of your municipality. They're my constituents just as much as the ones in this district, and I want to ensure everything is possibly done to protect their wells. They have a very legitimate concern. If I lived on that street, I'd probably be fighting tooth and nail just like they are. I might have personal opinions that are different than those, or their opinions about the development of this property. But at the end of the day, I am their publicly elected official, just like you are publicly elected officials, and we need to be responsive to the needs of our citizens. So just please take that all in consideration and recognize that those citizens outside of your jurisdiction and your authority are just as much citizens of this county. So thank you.
So I just got one more. So is it at this point when we start getting the attorneys involved with the annexation? Since Mayor Hushhour said that things don't start moving until we get the attorneys involved. So do we get the, I'm just teasing, but if we should come to, I mean, it sounds like.
I think we're gonna let the commissioners do some discussions.
Okay.
And we look forward to hearing from the commissioners. And obviously, you guys know how government works, so we'll be in talks, and we appreciate, once again, your time this afternoon.
And anything else you want to add?
Thanks for hearing, thanks for giving us the timeline and all the information. I was somewhat familiar with it, but now I'm much more familiar with it than I was before. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the cheat sheet.
One last thing, from here, will we have a public forum where we take information from citizens? Or would there be a next stage in this process Because there's a lot of people out there watching and listening that want to be at the table and want to chew us out or whatever they want to do. In respect to the system, I think we really need to have something in the near future.
I believe the next step would be for us to take it back to our staff, because it's determined that neither one of the bids were appropriate for the RFP that was pushed out. So taking that back, coming to a design of moving this annex into the town, and then having those conversations. Once that's all done and we're talking about the zoning, then we can start having the bid process, the RFP and bid again. But I think now, it was that situation if we were looking at those two bids, but now we're not. We're looking at something completely different. So I think there's no value in bringing the, community to look at two bids that don't exist anymore.
I mean, after that, somewhere in the future, I think there's only be some sort of.
There will have to.
Absolutely.
I'm in agreement with you that I need to meet with the staff now. Now that we kind of are pointed down a road, I need to meet with our town administrator and the staff and get coordinated as well.
Yeah, we're suggesting that we are agreeing with the annexation, but we have to formally
Sure.
And that's-
make that as well. So I don't want to get the
Yeah,
the
I
horse before-
apologize. Yeah,
So I think,
yeah.
Totally agree.
wrong way around, sorry.
But
But
you're-
yeah, so we've got a
with
couple
the
steps
cart,
there.
the horse,
Yeah,
so for the people that are watching, either on Carroll County Media or on Facebook or wherever we have this published, we're going to let the commissioners decide on what the next steps are, whether they do it in a closed meeting or an open meeting. That will be up to them. Open meeting. And then coming to the town, we look forward to hearing from the commissioners moving forward. So if you're trying to follow the process, it's now back into the county's hands to see what the next step is. And then we will, at our next council meeting, whether it's January or February, we will keep an eye out for that. And then keep an eye out on our town agendas for those to come forward, and those are published on the town website.
Yeah, Jason, appreciate that, and thanks.
No problem.
And I think it would be quite ironic if in the end, this property is the impetus that cures the traffic issue in 27.
Well, good luck with that, so.
Well, at least we can try to get the allocated resources to address it.
Sure. So I guess at this time, we'll adjourn.
Okay, if I can
Oh,
just
sorry.
make sure, Tom, is everything flowing good for you? Okay, all right, and David? Okay.
All right. At this time, we'll adjourn. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you
thank you
very
for
much.
coming.
Giving.
Thank you, same thing.